I'm Ronna Richmond. Today I'm going to be mixing paints. I'm going to mix paint colors, and I'm an oil painter and these are oil paints, but hopefully by the end of this episode you will have a little bit more knowledge on how to mix paint. I'm using a white piece of paper here so that the camera can better see the colors. I normally just work directly on my palette, but for today I'm going to put this here so you can see a little bit better what I'm mixing. I'm going to be using a palette knife and just I don't know, like a size 10 or 12 round bristle brush. And I just want to go over the colors really quick that I have on my palette. If you would like to give this a thumbs up and subscribe, I would appreciate that. And there's another video I put up earlier that is of my palette. I list the colors that I always use on my palette. This is the same palette. All right, let's get started. When we talk about the color wheel, you'll often hear people referring to primary colors. Primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. You can't make these colors, meaning you can't use any other colors to mix them. You have to have them. If you don't have red, you cannot mix red. You cannot make red. It's primary. That's why they say it's primary or first. The same goes for yellow, and the same goes for blue. Then you have what we call secondary colors. They're created from primary colors. Red and yellow make orange. Orange is secondary. Blue and yellow make green, which is a secondary color. Red and blue make violet, which is the third secondary color. So you have 3 primaries and 3 secondaries. And then you have white to lighten your colors into tints. A tint is a color plus white. Then you have shades. A shade is a color plus its complement, and it grays it down or makes it darker. Shades, think of being in the shade. You're in the shadows, you're in the shade. If you're in the sun, then you think of being in the sun as being lighter, and so it's a tint. That being said, if you mix red and green sit across from each other if you're talking about a color wheel. If it's a wheel, red and green fall across from each other on the color wheel. And the reason is because if you mix red and green, you're going to get gray. But if you put them next to each other or adjacent next to each other somewhere in a painting, they're going to brighten each other. And I call those best friend colors. Red and green are best friend colors. Blue and orange, if you mix them together, you get gray. They're also best friend colors. They're best friends. Violet and yellow are best friend colors. If you mix them together, you get gray. If you put them next to each other in a painting, they brighten each other. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. I have an apple here, and I recently did another video of myself painting an apple, and I decided to use the apple in this video as well because I wanted to use a canvas to actually apply paint to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix these colors Red is the local color. When you hear the term local color, it is just the most obvious color, alizarin crimson. Because it's a darker red. So here's my first apple color. Then I'm gonna mix it. It's that, but it's also, I see some medium red in it. So I'm gonna put some of this brighter red here. See that? And then it's got some highlights of even lighter, but I'll get to that later. Here's a darker and a medium red. Now, if I just put this dark red up there, that would be okay. But it also has its best friend color. Like best friends hang out. They're together all the time. So I'm gonna take a little bit of its best friend color, which is green. Now over here on this side of my palette is laid out from warm to cool, and then I put my neutrals or my earth tones. I call neutrals earth tones neutrals over here. So I can work to the right and to the left. I can work cool to warm. And so I want to add a little bit of green, the best friend color. They want to be together. I'm not going to add a lot because this is a red apple. So I'm just going to take a little bit of one or both of my greens. I'm going to just gray this down. I want to keep this kind of cool right now because that's how I see it. So this is a cool green. Within your colors, you have warm colors, which are this side of the palette. Warm colors, think of warm, hot temperatures outside. Think of being outside. You have yellows like the sun. You have yellow, and then you have orange and reds. Those are all warm. They make you feel warm. Then across this part and around the corner here, you have cool colors, blues, purple, and greens. Now, within these colors, you have warm and cool colors within those. So here I have a cool red. This red is a warm color, but this is a cool red, and this is a warmer red. And this one is even warmer yet. This is warmer yet. This cad red light is warmer yet. It's warmer and it's brighter. Now, within your cool greens, which I was gonna just get here, I have a cool green. Within green is a cool color. Here's a cool green. It is cooler. Whew, it's minty green. And this one is sap green. This is viridian and this is sap green. You see the difference? They're both cool colors, they're both green. But there's warm within the cool color group of cool colors, there's warm cool colors. So this is a warm green. We also have the same thing going on here with our browns. This is more of a cool brown. Raw umber is even cooler. So really burnt umber is kind of in the middle of, burnt umber is kind of in the middle of raw umber and this color, which is burnt sienna. And you can see it's redder. It's got more red and more orange in it. It's warmer because it's got some warm color in it. It's got more warms in it. This burnt umber is cooler. And then the raw umber is even cooler than this. Raw umber actually, it seems to me like it has more blue in it. So you have this push and pull, even within your warms and within your cool colors, you have push and pull of cool, warm, cool, warm. And so just keep that in mind, warm and cool colors. Now, I'm going to mix some of this red, this dark red, I'm just gonna mix it right here, with some of my warm green. I wanna keep this, sap green is a really useful color because it's a cool color, but it keeps your paintings warm and full, and it imbues them with more life than a cool color, unless you are maybe outside in the early morning. In the early morning, the colors outside are going to appear cooler, and in the afternoons, they're going to appear warmer. So you may use more of your cool greens in the morning, but you're still going to use warm greens. Too much. So I'm going to go ahead and mix some of my sap green with my dark red. Now it's making it even darker. Then I'm just going to go ahead and take a little bit of my cool green and throw that. Look at that. It gets darker yet. You see that? Because the reason is this warm green, it has yellow in it. There's more yellow in it, and maybe, you know, there's more yellow in it. It's warmer. So it's gonna keep this warm. Once you add this cool green, this has got blue in it. And so it's gonna darken it, but it's also gonna cool it off, because this green is made with blue and yellow. Blue and yellow make green. So this green is on the blue side. It's on the blue side. So it's pulling this, it's pulling toward your blues, not toward your yellow. Okay? All right, so then I'm gonna paint that up there. Here it is. So I painted up here. Here's my apple. That's my dark red part of my apple. And this is not a painting about an apple. This is just to give you a point of reference to why I'm mixing this dark red. Otherwise, I can just pop dark red up here and you'll be like, what's that for? Okay, so now you've got a lighter red here. So here's your lighter red. So you look at your apple and you're like, yeah, I think some goes right here. And you put your lighter red, you see that? But you're gonna leave wherever you see that darker red, you're gonna leave that. And then in your highlights are gonna go toward the yellow side of your palette, because when colors get lighter, they get warmer. So here are my yellows. Again, we have warm yellow right here. It's a sunny yellow. Then we have kind of an intermediate, but it's generally a warm yellow, but it's not as warm as that. This has more orange in it. And then you have your lemon yellow. It's yellow like a lemon. Okay. You're gonna wanna add white to that. And you're gonna wanna add a little bit of red, because there's red in your apple. Now, I'm gonna add some, I took this yellow here, just so you could see. I added some red, and now I'm gonna add, I always use my palette knife like this. I butter the bread, is what I'm doing. I'm not scooping it back and forth. I'm just buttering it like this. You just hold it overhand, and you just scoot it like this. You pull the paint, and then you scoop it up. Sometimes I get paint on the top, and I wanna do that and get it off the top, but I'm using the bottom of my knife, like that. That's all you have to do with it, okay? Then I get my brush, and here's my color. Whatever color I ended up with this color. All right, so you find wherever it is on your apple. I'm not painting this apple right now. I'm just showing you where, you know, I'm giving you a point of reference on how to start, you know, using the colors that you're mixing, rather than just going like this. Mix orange with red and yellow. That's not going to do you any good. You need to know what to do with it once you're done mixing it, and that's what I'm trying to show you. Okay, so here we go. Now let's say I've got a darker red, a medium red, and I've got some highlights. Now I need some blue violet here. I see some blue violet right here in the shadow. So now I'm gonna mix some blue violet. Blue violet, if you want to mix your own. I have violet on my palette, but I don't love violet paint out of the tube. It looks like chemical violet. It doesn't actually look like violets like you see growing out in nature. It just looks chemical to me, and so I don't really care for it. I use it sparingly. So I like mixing my own. How do you make violet? Red and blue. You mix them together, they're gonna make violet. So red and blue make violet. So I'm gonna mix a little bit of permanent rose, and permanent rose is like dark, it's a bright, intense pink. And so I'm gonna mix it. If I want something that's not quite as grayed down, then I'll use pink if I want a cool violet. If I want a darker, grayer violet, I'll use some alizarin crimson because it's a dark red. So here you can see this really dark violet. All right, so I'm gonna pop that up there. There's my violet. Red and blue make violet. Pop it up there. Okay. Now I'm gonna make, I need some orange, I need maybe some red orange up here. So I can use orange there, but I can also make my own orange. Again, like with violet, I have orange on my palette, but you can mix your own orange. Red and yellow make orange. So I'm going to use some red, and I'll use some of this, I'll just use my medium yellow here and make some orange. And you can make it pumpkin orange, you can make it more of a tomato orange, or you can make it yellow orange. Here's a nice pumpkin, well, it's darker than pumpkin orange, just like a red orange. If you want it more yellow, maybe I'll make it cooler yellow. So I'm gonna add some lemon yellow to it, and that's gonna cool it down a little bit. Okay, and make it lighter as well. Within all these colors, you have tints and shades. A tint, as I mentioned earlier, is a color plus white. So if I want to make a tint of, here's cobalt blue. I want some cobalt, and I'm going to add some white to it to lighten it up. Then there you have cobalt with white. But let's say this cobalt, here it is up here. It's way brighter than what I want. So how can I make that duller? I can add its complement. And it's the complement of blue is orange. So I can add what I have here. I can grab some from over here and add it full strength. I'm just gonna take some that I mixed here and just a little bit, see that? I'm just gonna pop that in there and I'm gonna mix it up. Look at that. Now it's grayer. It's kind of what maybe some people might consider like a desert blue or something. So I'm gonna pop that up there and see what that looks like. See the difference between, here's here's cobalt with white, and here's cobalt with white plus a little bit of orange. It grayed it down and it made it less intense. I'm gonna show you now how you can make this red brighter. If you wanna make it brighter, you can I talked about colors, if they're best friend colors, if they're sitting next to each other, then I'm gonna take both of these greens. I'm gonna mix my Viridian and my sap green. And then I'm gonna lighten that up, but I'm not gonna add white. I don't want it to be chalky. I don't want it to be mint green. I want it to be more of a yellow green. So I'm gonna add some of this medium yellow. Look at that. Look at that. That's so pretty. And then look what happens when I put it up here next to this red. Look how bright they get. Watch. Look at that, how bright that is. I know I just painted over my apple. I'm just showing you by putting them next to each other. Now, I also mentioned that they will make gray. So you can watch me do that. Here's what's left of my green. I'm gonna get some of this red I have here. I'll just use this. This is fine right here. I'm gonna move a little bit of this over. And look at that. Look how it grayed it down. It also created what I consider to be like an olive green. It's like the color of olives. Look at that. And so you made an olive green. They mix together. You put them next to each other, they're very vibrant. You mix them together and they're duller. The other thing you can do within all these colors is add white and you make them lighter. So this here is already dull, so it's a shade, but I can put some white in it. If I want this green, I'm like, I want this to be lighter than that. I want this color, but I want something light. And so I just add white, and then it actually, look at how it looks almost light yellow green on the canvas, but down here it's kind of a gray green. So it depends on what these colors depend on. You can't look at this on the palette and know what it's going to look like on the canvas, because this color next to it is going to influence it. If I put this next to this, see, this is different right here. Look how different it is right there than right there. Look at that. I got a little red on my brush, but it's different. All right, next, all colors of light combined make white light. The colors that make up white light is G BIV. Those are called the visible spectrum. We can see those colors in the spectrum. But you might hear people talk about the spectrum and that there are different colors that you should be mixing together because this color wheel's incorrect or it's not accurate. Paint and light are two completely different things. And so you're working with paint. You're not working with light. Light and paint are not the same. Don't get confused about that. And what we're doing here with our paints is we're imitating light. I'm going to mix blacks. There is, I think, a lot of differences of opinion about whether people should or should not have store-bought blacks on their palette. I have not used a store-bought black since I very first started painting. I stopped buying store-bought black. I mix my own blacks. You can have black on your palette, and a lot of artists have used black throughout history, but they've used it very, very sparingly. And to me, it's not necessary to buy. If you have it on your palette, especially art students, if they have black on their palette, they're gonna most likely it's the lazy way to get a darker color. And you may tell them over and over, if you're an instructor, if you're the art teacher, you may tell them, be very, very sparing with your black. but they're gonna opt for it because it's harder to mix your colors together and learn how to use those colors to make something like black. And so I just think that it's better, you don't need it anyway, and your paintings are so much better, I think, without mixing black with your other colors. So with that, I'm gonna show you what I do. I'm gonna mix, this is burnt umber. Brown is what I call dark orange. So I'm gonna mix, this is basically orange, it's dark orange. Orange and blue are best friend colors. I'm gonna mix ultramarine blue with burnt umber. And I'm gonna get a nice warm black, but you can make it a cool black too. I'm gonna show you. So here, if I'm pulling it out here a little bit, you can see you can definitely see it's on the brown side. If I want it, so it's on the brown side because I have more brown than blue in it. If I want it to be, it's a warm black. If I want a cool black, I would put more blue in it than brown. And I could even use some of these other blues. I'm not limited to ultramarine. I can use my cobalt, my cerulean, however here's some of the manganese. I'm gonna mix it all in there. Okay, now you can see, I'm gonna add a little white to these. You can see here, one is warmer than the other. And I mean like in color temperature, we're talking warm colors and cool colors, like temperature outside. This is warmer. I'm adding white so you can kind of see it lighter. And then here's a cooler version. I'll put them next to each other. You see that? And I'm trying to mix about the same value. But you can see this one is this, and this one is this. This is cooler, it's more toward blue. That's more toward brown. Okay, so that's one black. And if I put this up here, look at how dark it is. Look at this. Look at that. Look at that. It's very dark. And to our eyes, at least to mine, I would look at that and say, well, that's black. Okay, that's the cool black. Here's warm black. Let's see what that looks like up there. I'm gonna put it next to the cool black. You see the difference here? Okay, it just depends on what kind of black you want. All right, then, the same goes for violet. I'm gonna make my own. I'll just use this, that's fine. I'll use some violet that's pre-mixed. Here, I'll put this back over there. All right, here's some violet. I'm gonna throw some yellow in. I'll just put this stuff in with it. You may want something like this in your shadow or wherever. Here is this violet has more red in it, so it's more of a red brownish. It's the least of the blacks that I use because it's harder to get a dark black. But you can do it. I just have to add a little bit more purple. I'm gonna add some blue. Okay. And I'll put some of this lemon in there. That when it cools it off, it tends to darken it. Okay, now you may look at that and go, well, that looks like purple, not black. But if you put it up here, remember what I said about don't judge the color while it's sitting here? You gotta put it up here. Look at that. There's another black, or close to black. I could darken it more. Okay, then the last one I want to talk about, you've got brown and blue. You've got violet and yellow. And then the two most useful blacks that I make are brown and blue and red and green. Best friend colors, red and green. And I'm just gonna use my alizarin because that's already really dark. And then I'm gonna grab some of my cool green, which is Viridian, and look at how dark that is. Now, you can make this a red black or a green black. If you want more of a red black, then you add more red. If you want it green black, you add more green. If you want it warmer, you're gonna add warm green, which is your sap green, and that will warm it up too. All right, let's see what that looks like. Look at that. So here I've shown you a bunch of different colors that your eye looks at and determines to be black, that you consider black. You never had to go out and buy black. And it's made with colors that you can add any other colors you want. I can add this, whatever I want, and those will all, when I put those together, they all influence that black. And why? Why is that you can add any old color? Because when it all comes down to it, red, yellow, and blue, if you mix them together, they theoretically make black. So any of these colors you mix together are going to get you black, as long as you keep it dark. So here's red, here's a brighter red. I'll just use sap green, I'll use what's left over here of Viridian. And I'll use some of this yellow and a little of that. Now, I'm looking at it, I'm looking for black. Right now, the reason it's red is because there's more red in it than anything else. So I have to pull it more to a different color, either yellow or blue. It's what I consider brick red right now, so I'm gonna put a little bit more green in it. And I'm almost out of my Viridian, so I'll just use the rest of this. Red is the most powerful, what I consider red is the most powerful color. Now it's getting darker, but I'm out of green. So let's say you're out of green, you're like, man, I don't want to get any more paint out. I just want to use what's here and try to make black out of this. Okay, so I've got this Windsor blue over here. It's a warm blue. I'm gonna pop that in there because it's dark, and Windsor blue is a very strong color. It will quickly overpower whatever else you're mixing it with. So here is, look at this. Look at this. It's like a green black. Look at that. All right, let's put that up there. So I just mixed red, yellow, blue, and this has some green in it. And look at this. There's another black right there. And I didn't have to get any more paint out, and I didn't have to buy black. Okay, well that about does it for my episode on mixing paint. We talked about complementary colors. We talked about tints and shades. Value is all the colors with a little bit of white added to get lighter, or a little bit of the best friend color, the opposite color, the complementary color, to get darker. And there's one thing I didn't talk about that I'll just mention. Some people who like vocabulary, there are colors that sit basically next to each other on the color wheel. They're called analogous colors. They're like the guy next door. And so you have blue and then green. For example, blue and green are analogous colors. They sit next to each other on the color wheel. Red and yellow, or red and orange, excuse me. Red and orange are analogous colors. They sit next to each other on the color wheel. They're like the next door neighbor. And so you have your next door neighbor colors. When you're mixing colors, you can think of your next door neighbors as being a community, and you all kind of blend together. You mix together real well. And you enhance each other as a community. So if I took cobalt and I mixed it with some Viridian. There we go. And let's say I even took a little bit of, here's a little manganese. I'll take this little manganese and put that in there. He's a little warmer. Analogous colors. So to alter colors, you don't have to go across the color wheel. You can just use colors that are next door neighbors and mix them together. Look at this beautiful blue I just made. I used a little bit of whatever was left, a tiny bit of Viridian, a little bit of sap green, cobalt, and manganese. And then let's say I wanted to I really like that color, I'm gonna lighten it up. And then I'm gonna add I'm gonna warm it with a little yellow. Now I made a nice tint of a mixed color. Whoops. Now I made a nice tint that I mixed a bunch of colors on. I have way too much paint on my brush right now. But there's a nice lighter tone. And so I hope that you have learned a little bit about mixing colors today. I'm trying to give you real world advice. And so you can not just go to your own palette and start mixing colors and not know what to do with them. I've tried to show you how to apply the colors that you're mixing to an actual painting. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.